before Christmas, I mean, you talk to your former Democratic colleagues. Of course, you switch parties here. Do they really think this is doable before Christmas?
I think it's just talk. I think it's political speak. I don't think they can get it done. Once the original hard infrastructure bill went through, there are no chips there, nothing to force many of the more moderate senators, particularly Manchin and Sinema, to do anything. And if they're going to do it before Christmas, they're going to have to work awfully hard, because from what I hear, if they do it at all, they're going to change it significantly. They just shouldn't do it at all. We don't have the money. It's a bad bill. I could tell you so many reasons it's a bad bill. There's things in that bill the Democrats don't even know what it is. I like to have fun, and I walk up to some of my Democratic colleagues and I say, just for the heck of it, I'd like to know what tree equity is. Tree equity. Yeah. And does that mean you have to have the same number of trees, the same size trees, the same type of trees? But this is the silliness and the foolishness. But there's bad in the bill, too. When you're hiring over 80,000 IRS agents to really poke into your life, into your privacy, we don't care about people breaking through the border and they're actually given money from hardworking taxpayers. We're going after the hardworking taxpayers who actually do pay taxes already. We want to get them more. Well, that's wrong. People are tired. They're tired of it. They're tired of the nonsense and the foolishness.
You know, in the meantime, Congressman, they're working back and forth, both parties, to try to come up with a debt ceiling solution that's already incurred the wrath of Donald Trump, who says that anything that Mitch McConnell is doing to help the Democrats is not good. Where are you on this?
Where I am is I support Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a friend of mine. He's a personal friend of mine. And I can't even imagine how disturbed and disgusted he is with the majority in Congress right now, with this president. I mean, we were first in just about everything.
But he's mad at those who even supported, as I believe you did, sir, the infrastructure bill. That was something that had heady support. But he's angry at anyone who voted for that, because it, too, he says, help the Democrats, help the president. What do you think?
Well, at the end of the day, I think any president that falls asleep in meetings and falls asleep at his own press conferences is beyond help. And I don't think it helped him at all. And we saw the numbers. He actually went down. He's in the 30s now. Frankly, I'd like to see President Trump as our president again. I'd like to see
policies. But his notion that he's angry at Republicans, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear, that he's angry at Republicans for helping there, and you know, even though you could make the argument, as I believe you've made in the past, that there's a lot of good in that bipartisan infrastructure push, whether you help President Biden or not. Do you want to just elaborate on that?
Well, I didn't think it was helping President Biden. In fact, I think that it actually will hurt the Build Back Better, and that's why, you know, literally the progressives, some of them were tearing up and crying when it went through, because they knew they didn't have any more chips. You know, we're on to a different issue now. That bill's done, it's passed, it's law, but the issue that we're on is, you know, the people who have made so much of this debt, and it's both sides, but particularly the Democrats now, with no regard to spending, with no regard for the trillions of dollars that they are continuing to spend on what bills that we all agree are bad bills, are going to hurt this country. I agree with the president on that. I spoke with the president about the other issue. I spoke to him before the vote. I spoke to him after him. Again, I'm supporting him for the presidency of the United States of America. I want to go back to the good old days.
All right. So, you know, Congressman, you're in New Jersey, and you're probably aware of, you know, what Chris Christie's been doing, apparently in pushing a book indicating he very much would run for president again, whether Donald Trump does or not. What do you think of that?
Well, that's certainly, look, Chris is a friend of mine. I had a wonderful relationship with him when we were both in the legislature together, worked with him a lot on a lot of issues. He did a lot of good. However, I want to be clear. My support is for Donald Trump in the past. My support is for Donald Trump now. And I will tell you something. There's nobody that's going to get anywhere in the Republican Party right now without his support if he decides not to run, or if he decides to run without supporting him. He's the guy that's going to matter in this.
Why is everyone afraid of him?
Nobody's afraid of him. I'm not afraid of him. I get along with him. I mean, look, I crossed the aisle, became a Republican. I sat with the man for an hour and a half the first time when we had a personal talk, and I actually found him. If you're straight with him and you look at him in the eye and you tell him the truth, and you actually give him the respect he should have, I find him to be just fine. I haven't had any problems at all. So you'd have to ask other people. I think some people on the other side, or some people who are doing things perhaps that they shouldn't do, they're darn afraid. And I'll tell you who really is afraid are other countries like China, North Korea, Russia. I mean, we're on our knees to these countries now. Donald Trump had a great energy portfolio for this country. We didn't have the crime rate that we did. We didn't have the supply chain issues that we have. We were strong in our military presence. We need to get stronger, by the way, with that, and he was on the road to doing that. So there's no fear except on their part, and other people just have to sit down and have some straight talk with them.
All right, we'll see what happens. Congressman, thank you very much. Good seeing you again.